Welcome, everyone, to another episode of DNS Unfiltered. Today, I'm joined by Tom Sweet, the CIO of Refrigeration Pros. Let me ask you first, Tom.
Sure.
What do you guys do?
So Industrial Refrigeration Pros designs, builds, and services industrial refrigeration systems. So if you have a warehouse or a food processing plant or a meat packing facility, we would either design those systems for you or build them if it's new construction, and we service them. So very similar to if you have an air conditioner at your home, you may have someone come out to service it. But what we work with is very large scale systems for warehouses, 35,000 square feet and more.
Yeah, that's the point I wanted to get across. Like, the industrial in your company name is legitimate. These are very
Yeah.
large installations that you guys are working on.
Yeah, we have a sister company called Climate Pros that is more for like a Whole Foods or a Kroger or commercial facilities. So we're specifically industrial, and there's different regulations, ammonia or CO2 based refrigerants as opposed to Freon. A lot of people are familiar with Freon because they have that in their refrigerator at their house or their air conditioner.
Oh yeah, I'm
So
sure everyone's heard a little bit about the Freon at their house. Their AC guy's like, well, I could do the R47 or whatever they are. It's like, but so yeah, that's cool. So you are the chief information officer, and I'm curious, like, how did you kind of grow into that role?
It's kind of an interesting story. I graduated with civil engineering as my background. I did that for 6 years. And then in the late 90s in Massachusetts, there was a great demand for people in what they call high tech. I mean, now we call it IT, but back then it was called high tech. And I made a career jump from civil engineering into IT, working for NEC Computer Systems Division, and I've mostly worked in the product space and for companies that develop software. I worked for Microsoft for a bit. I worked for a company that did like an AutoCAD for mineral mining and geology, and wound up at GM Financial. Left there when I was VP of Cloud, so cloud engineering reported to me, and then I had the opportunity to keep moving up, and I had relationships built in the DFW area. There was an individual who interviewed for the role that I have now. He didn't want that role. It was maybe a little too hands-on for him because this is in many ways a startup. We're PE backed, but we're in many ways a startup. And I interviewed for the role, and on a Saturday morning at a Starbucks, and had an offer a half hour later. So it was a really interesting approach to getting into the CIO.
Exactly. And actually, I'm curious, who do we talk to rename IT back to high tech? That sounds way cooler.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it changed somewhere along the way. I don't know.
So, industrial refrigeration pros, you guys are you're not a conglomerate, but you've made a lot of acquisitions over the past. Like, that's kind of
we bought 8. So
yeah.
I came in, the CFO and I were the third and fourth employee, and we came in after the first 2 acquisitions. So the CEO, he bought one company, he brought in a VP of HR, and then they bought a second company. Me and the CFO were third and fourth. And so we bought 8 companies so far. And we're still looking to acquire the right companies to help our business grow and make one better company out of a number of smaller ones.
So let's talk about that one company strategy, because I'm sure everyone has like a unique technology stack, maybe even their marketing teams have software they use and different from, other sales organizations from other sides. So how are you like mishmashing all this stuff together? And that's kind of your job, right?
It is. There's a lot of organizational change management involved, and the tech part is really easy. None of them were on Microsoft, right? So we migrated their tenants into our tenant, or migrated their Google Workspace or whatever systems, and we migrated the ERP into a single ERP. A lot of it is cultural change and how you, because in many ways we're not buying software applications, we're buying service organizations. I mean, we're not really buying people, but we're buying service organizations, and you have to maintain those people. They just can't all quit because all of a sudden they don't like how it's no longer a family business. And so there's just a lot of that, and trying to pick your battles. And when you're coming from a GM Financial, which is 11,000 or 13,000 people, there are policies in place because they're in many ways GM's a defense contractor. They have Sarbanes-Oxley, they have Graham Leach Bailey. They have all these different requirements or regulatory laws they must meet. And then when you're a much smaller IT organization, you're just really starting it from scratch. You can't do all of that, but what can you do? How do you move forward? What do you have budget for? And how do you make change and deliver business value as quickly as possible without driving everyone away, without having people quit because now they just can't deal with it? Because not only is there change management from IT, there's change management from HR because people's benefits are changing or their policies are changing. There's change management from accounting because maybe there's a different accounting approach, and each company had their own approach. And so now there's a different safety program, and you have to have ladder training, and you have to have all these OSHA trainings that maybe these companies didn't do. So there's a lot of that, and IT is just one piece of it. And so trying to work with the other business leaders and figure out how far we can push and how quickly we can push without getting too much pushback, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. And I love the way you phrase that you're not really in the tech management space. You're in the culture management, or maybe like a shift in culture. How does that work out most of the time?
Well, so I wanted to clarify. I definitely am technical, and a lot of the aspects of my role are quite technical. However, that's not the challenge, right? So there's a significant portion, which is cybersecurity and technical leadership, but that's easy to do. However, it's the people challenges are the harder part, and trying to work with and understand. It's trying to seek to understand, and sometimes you still have to say no, but nonetheless, you got your point.
Sometimes you still have to say no. That's part of being a leader, Tom.
Yeah.
That's actually really interesting because the technology, like you say, is easy. And I talk with a lot of managed service providers, and a lot of them focus heavily on their tech stack, but it's about the people and how you service your customers. And in your case, the employees, the perhaps new employees of IR Pros are your kind of customers. So how do you kind of bring them into the fold? Do you is it like a Thor's hammer approach, or is it more gradual, gentle,
It's
perhaps?
been, so that's an interesting point. So we've always tried to handle it with the gloves. And like I told the CEO and COO, for our next acquisition, I'm ripping the Band-Aid off a bit more. And it's sometimes it's just better to go full on, because we've tried to incrementally pull the Band-Aid off bit by bit by bit, and all the stuff has to happen anyway. We might as well just go for broke right from the beginning, and hey, you know what, this is the way it's going to be, and do it all at once. From
Yeah.
wiping the computers and wiping their phones and re-enrolling them. I mean, you wipe someone's phone and they
Yeah.
really upset, but it's a company phone. We pay the bill. So yes, it has to be enrolled, and we have to manage it, and it's a liability for us. So we're going to have to do it the way we need to do it.
Yeah, I love that. It's like the tech has got to happen. So
Mhm.
sorry, I know this is going to be hard. I'm going to rip this Band-Aid off, but you're there as people to, coach them along. That could be like the kid glove part, like the people part.
We explain a lot of stories. I mean, we have, different tools for threat cloud. So we know other people in the industry who are in our space who are getting hacked and getting compromised, and some of our major vendors who are quite large have been hit by ransomware in 2024. Therefore, we have stories to show, hey, this is really, all these different companies have been compromised and we haven't. And so these are why the steps, why we're doing the steps we take. Or we need to have cyber security insurance. And just like you can't buy a new race car and drive it on the racetrack and then think your car insurance company is going to cover you if you crash it. The same type of thing. Just because you have cyber insurance doesn't mean that you can act with negligence and then expect them to cover you. And so that those are the kind of analogies we give them. Or
Yeah,
the analogy of, hey, look, you can't use your personal Dropbox. Okay. Oh, we always did. I'm like, what if accounting used a personal bank account to hold your paycheck, and they just had a spreadsheet somewhere that kept track of it? Would you be comfortable with that? No, right? Or would you expect the HR department to keep your social security number and healthcare problems with privacy? Oh yeah, of course. I'm like, well, what if they didn't? You'd be upset. So the same types of rules apply in other aspects. So, and try to use those analogies the best I can, but a lot of these people have only worked for family businesses or only worked for small companies. The people we hire who come from larger companies, it's all second nature to them because they've seen
Yeah.
it everywhere.
Yeah, that's really good to hear that you guys are kind of you're there for the soft landing, but the Band-Aid comes off today.
Mhm.
Well, speaking of technology, and I'm not very familiar with the industrial refrigeration space, and I imagine most of our audience isn't either. It seems it's relatively niche. I mean, you got I would imagine that it's pervasive in all of our lives, but we don't really see it. But I'm curious, what type of technology are you guys anticipating on the horizon that's going to be like coming up for
Right.
your
And that's a
industry?
good question because we're not a manufacturer, right? So we just install and build it, but we're not manufacturing the compressors. I mean, just no different than the air conditioner at your home, right? That comes from Carrier or one of those companies, and then the people who install it have different vendors. And we're going to see more and more AI for efficiency of systems and monitoring. And so for warehouses, there's going to be more AI used for monitoring and reducing electricity costs as we go forward. And for the technicians, the people we hire in the trades, they're going to have to know more and more technologies, no different than a service technician for your automobile. Right? Years ago, it used to be mostly a mechanical job, but now service technicians have to connect the car to the computer and now analyze it and run electrical checks. And the people we hire who are turning the wrenches for us, there's more and more requirements for them to be technology savvy. I mean, everyone has an iPhone, everyone has an iPad. There's information that they have to enter. There's pictures they have to take with the technology. And it's not just about a phone call. It's about using the technology, using potentially Microsoft Copilot to search on SharePoint, using SharePoint agents to then pull data back from our SharePoint sites and learning and having that business intelligence available. And that's kind of a stretch, but that's coming.
Yeah. So actually, I did want to chat with you about data management and how that works. But first, you mentioned a very term that's in the news, AI these days,
Sure.
and I do a lot of AI stuff here for my job, which is mostly like marketing type of activities. But you are in this space where some of the promised AI future that AI can predict using weather patterns and electricity usage and all this stuff and formulate a plan
Yeah.
that will save you real hard dollars. So do you really see that happening? Because I read about it, but I haven't seen anybody say, yes, we saved $20 million last year on
I
because of
haven't seen
AI, blah, blah, blah.
that yet. What I see is a lot of use of AI toolings to accelerate the job that most people do. And from the talks I've had in the DFW area, the common theme is AI won't take your job. It'll take the job of people who aren't using AI. And so we
Yeah.
use a lot of it for web content marketing, for web creation, for copywriting, for even generating PowerShell code, Python, different tooling that it accelerates that really, really well. We're starting it with, for example, with Copilot in Microsoft Teams in SharePoint. I can go type, tell me a list of all our tax IDs for all our companies, and it'll search and find and spit that answer right out. So instead of me spending 10 minutes trying to find a tax ID of some company because I need it for who knows what, it'll spit that number out for me and it'll find it. So it really enhances that search capability. So now if we take that and then put SharePoint agents for each SharePoint site, then now we have a tool that everyone can use. And I think the SharePoint agents are only 200 per SharePoint site. Now we have over 200 sites. We're going to have to pick and choose which ones we got to consolidate some here. This can't be SharePoint sprawl where every SharePoint site gets a $200.
SharePoint sprawl. I feel like that's a term that's on LinkedIn right now somewhere.
Yeah. So we got to work to we've got all these companies into SharePoint. Now we got to get them to think about working as one company, migrating that data, getting it into single place, and then we can really turn the AI loose on it. But yeah, there's all sorts of good stuff happening. And I was even last year I was at an event. I'm like, we have to talk about AI. I'm so sick of hearing it. But now that I'm actually getting some real success out of it, I love it.
So that's interesting. So you have brought on 8 companies, kind of put
Mhm.
them under this umbrella,
Mhm.
and each one I assume has a SharePoint site or some type of knowledge base of their company. Company brain is somewhere. Are you saying that you kind of ingest their company brain and then you can put an AI layer on top of that to
Well,
search?
no, no. So we probably have over 200 SharePoint sites. So each like the accounting team has different SharePoint sites for each one of the partner company operating companies, and then every SharePoint team, excuse me, every Microsoft team is also a SharePoint site. So that's where you get this sprawl. But if I can take some of the major sites and combine them into one for most of their main data, not the niche ones, but the main data, now we have a single site. Then I can apply agents to that. I can apply agents to every single site, but we practice principle of least privilege. So not everyone has access to everyone's site. And so therefore we want to try to migrate it a bit to make it so it's more usable down the road. I mean, the first step is getting them into SharePoint, which is a little challenge because they're all used to the Z drive, the X drive, or whatever they call it. It's like, no, it's no longer a drive letter. It's like, well, what do? I'm like, well, the data's here. It's just not called X, right? It's the same thing.
It's the same
Actually, you can get
kind
to
of.
it. Yeah, you can get to it from your phone now. Oh, yeah, so.
Some pluses and some minuses with
Mhm.
AI. So, and you guys are collecting a lot of data. Like you mentioned, your technicians are like having to take pictures to kind of document, I assume, their
Mhm.
repairs and their
Yeah.
installations. Is all of that stored in some like Microsoft tooling, or is there other stuff involved?
No, it's mostly Microsoft, right? It just makes it easy for us, easy to maintain, easy to search, right? We have backups 3 times a day. If we can get everyone on the same system with Microsoft Teams and their phones are all Intune enrolled, so therefore they have SharePoint on their phone, they have Microsoft OneDrive on their phone, they have Outlook on their phone, all that stuff. They take a picture of their receipt, it can get mailed in, right? It's all just trying to get everyone understanding the ecosystem. But yeah.
So that kind of leads us into the cybersecurity aspect of your job. So you've got all this data flowing around.
Mm-hmm.
You've got people coming into the company. Some are new to this kind of corporate, strategy, corporate stance on their devices, their peripherals,
Uh-huh.
making sure that everyone is marching to the same beat. What are some of the challenges you've seen in the cyberspace?
Well, I mean, that's about half of my job. Right. So
It's
that,
75%.
yeah,
Let's just
yeah,
admit it.
yeah. So, a third of my job, well, half of my job is half of my job is CIO and the third half is CTO. But so that's 3 halves.
Yeah, that's fine. Hey, 150%. I love it.
But when you look, right, a lot of these companies, some of them had the Office admin was Microsoft Global Admin for the Microsoft tenant, and there's no
Ooh.
MFA, right? So you're taking companies who didn't have any cybersecurity posture, right, and you're increasing their Microsoft Secure score by 400%. And so to do that, I mean, you're implementing cybersecurity training and awareness and phishing simulations and MFA and using tools like DNS filter for filtering sites, and you're using tools like Auto Elevate to remove admin rights and conditional access rules and blocking risky sign-ins and attack surface reduction, and just layer upon layer upon layer. And it's a really defense in depth because if one fails, then there's other controls in place. And so what that example we talked about where a fish did get through, but another control DNS filter had blocked the link, so therefore we weren't compromised. And every week you're looking at huge companies that are being compromised with really big cybersecurity teams of 100 plus people. And so even with them and all the policies and controls they have in place, they still get compromised. So for smaller companies like us, we have to do everything we can, and it's nonstop. But there's a lot to it, and it's layer upon layer upon layer, and it requires your team to be actively engaged in understanding the ecosystem. Not everyone has that ability, but we've had it locked down really well, and that angers people. But nonetheless, it's done for the right reasons. So.
Yeah, so if you didn't catch that, I kind of buried the lead here. Tom and Industrial Refrigeration Pros is a happy DNS Filter customer, and we are really glad to have you. One of our favorite to chat with. Tom mentioned that they had an event where one of their layers of security didn't catch something, and DNS Filter did. And I'm curious, like, that's great. Kudos, DNS Filter. We're doing our job properly.
Mhm.
I'm curious, like, what do you look for in vendors when you're going out into the cyber world? Because there are so many, and there are some that overlap, some that don't, some that are missing a feature that you really need. How are you evaluating what to pick?
Okay, that's a good question. So there's a couple things, and there's a tool I'm not going to mention, which is a secret one that we use. But I went to an event on a Tuesday, and I bought it on a Friday. So in DFW and probably other cities, there's different events, and they're sponsored by, you know, security vendors or other people in the IT space. And there was a product that was on display, and it was presented, and I'm like, this is going to work for me. It definitely will. And that was a Tuesday, and I bought it on a Friday. And that's how impressed I was with it. So it's word of mouth and interaction with vendors. It's also interaction as a community, right? Because I'm active in the DFW community with other people in the security and IT space, and I'll talk to them about what they use, what successes they've had, and also Reddit. I mean, Reddit has some really unfiltered comments, especially the few of the subreddits, and you have to have some thick skin if you're going to partake in them and ask questions, because if they don't like you, they'll tell you you're stupid. But nonetheless, you can get some really good feedback from what companies are using and how that works from people who aren't really contractually obligated to keep their mouth shut. That's like they should be. I mean, yeah, probably are, but they're anonymous, and they'll say whatever. And so there's always some great feedback there too.
Yeah, agree. Reddit is a wealth of information. They have a knack for not telling you you're stupid, but making you feel it in your core that you're an idiot.
I think I've been told, someone told me I should be fired at one time.
What subreddits do you hang out in?
I,
Sysadmin? What do you go to?
Admin, Intune, there's the firewall ones. I'm not going to mention the firewall ones, but there's subreddits for firewalls. There's other ones for Office 365 and such.
So when you guys have a large operation. I think you have a relatively small team, but you do very big things. I'm curious of what type of impact that has on like the environment around you. Do you guys look into environmental impact for anything?
I mean, that's normally would be the owners of the facilities that contract does. But when you look at a cloud first and a mobile first approach, it does reduce the cost of people driving to work, or they can work from anywhere. I mean, I only flew twice last year for work, and for having 8 offices around the country. I mean, we have everything automated. We have a really strong approach with Microsoft Teams and Teams Video and mobile devices, and got all the phones under a single system now, Teams phones, and we're just trying to make it so you don't have to go into the office. Now, we do have people who must go into the office because that's where the tools are, that's where the parts are. But we hire a lot of remote people, and the salespeople are always traveling.
So let's talk about those remote people and remote offices for a minute. You're the CIO, but you're not a team of one. You have a lot of people that are doing the day-to-day work. I've seen you get your hands dirty, actually. Tom suggested some updates to the DNS filter documentation recently, which we greatly appreciate. But I'm curious, like, how do you build your IT team?
I mean, we're really small, right? It's a 500-person company, and my team is quite small. But and my team is all remote. Now, I do have someone in California near a few of our offices, but the nature of how we've created this is hiring people who are willing to do more than one thing. We pretty much do everything from wiring the offices if they need. I mean, if we have a whole lot of wiring, we probably outsource that. But if we have to run a couple cables, we'll do that. We'll do firewalls. We do security cameras, access management, mail, ERP, everything. Right. And so
wow. So yeah, you guys really do it all. You do the hardware, the software, the structured wiring. You might as well go fix some pumps every now and then. It sounds like you guys almost do everything.
We pretty much do. I mean, the phones, the team's phones, and it just makes it simpler. So because we can go when you have a lightweight change management process, it's pretty simple for us to onboard a vendor. The same person can go add the DNS entries and then test it and deploy it, as opposed to in the past where I've worked with 3 weeks later, another team will get the DNS value and then they'll reject it because there's a question they have and they'll put it back in the queue. And so with a small team and a team that's willing to learn and wants to learn and willing to do more than one task, there's the ability to be really cross-functional and go super fast. And that's been really helpful for us. I know when you look on Reddit, people are like, I only want to do firewall. And they want me to do network. I don't do network. I only do firewall. Whereas, the people I hire are really willing to learn from me and to be able to set themselves up for the future by being cross-functional. Because then, as the IT market tightens up, which you've seen, 150,000 jobs gone in 2024, whatever that number is, right? People who can do more than one thing can do 6 or 7 different tasks. They're going to be more valuable, right? If someone can do firewalls and M365 and Intune and understands the basics of how Sentinel works, right? That person's more valuable than someone that only does firewalls, because then that person can only work at a huge company that has enough firewalls to justify a single role. So
Yeah. So you're really looking for the generalists, and I think I've seen this, with the again the AI buzzword. With AI, like most generalists can specialize because temporarily specialize in the thing that needs to be done now,
Mhm.
because they have the world's knowledge, a search index better than like
Mhm.
on top of Google. Like, give me the answers to the questions, and the generalists can now specialize. Are you seeing that with your team?
Yeah, I mean, look at what Sam Altman just said last week. Is that, I think, and I don't have the exact numbers, but OpenAI is like the number 75th best programmer in the world, and by the end of 2025, it'll be the best programmer. And so, even for some of the stuff I'm doing with some new projects that are coming down, I'm not a Python programmer at all, right? I'm typing it in ChatGPT and it's coming back and I'm running it and it's giving me a bug and I'm saying, this is the bug I get in the code you just gave me. Can you fix it? Oh, we're sorry. And it gives you better code and it works. And again, I'm not a Python. I mean, I know C Sharp, I know some other languages and wanted to learn Python. Never did because I was always too busy. But now I'm writing some Python code with the assistance of AI. And so how does that affect everyone? I mean, I can show the accounting team how RPA works, robotic process automation, and say, look, you can get Copilot in robotic process automation and have it help you. Said, IT can't do this work for you. We're not really staffed for that, but we can teach you how to use it, and then you can take that tool and then build upon it. And I think that's where we're going to see a lot of back office jobs change is, again, you won't be replaced by AI. You will replace people who aren't using AI. And so how do you use AI to benefit yourself and then do a better job?
Yeah, I've had that almost exact word for word experience where I wanted to build something, and I asked ChatGPT to walk me through it in Python, and the code, if someone that knows what they're doing were to look at it, would be like, this is terrible, but it did work, and I'm not like releasing it to the world, and it's not like exposed to the internet, so
Mhm.
the safeguards are kind of in place, and I'm
Mhm.
like, this is amazing. Like, I can be augmented by AI, and it sounds like you and your team
Mhm.
are using that
Yeah.
tool
I could
set.
keep pushing them to do it. I'm like, put it in ChatGPT.
Yeah,
Figure out why, and use that advantage because I mean we're writing a lot of automation. We have a lot of scripts that run and that's why we've been able to stay lean and and that's really helped us, right, from a business perspective. Because I don't have to go to defend a huge team to my CEO about if things get tough, we lose people. No, I mean we're running super lean, and yeah, I could use a lot more people, but I can get it done with what I have. And how do we use AI more efficiently to get more stuff done? You know?
yeah. I ran into we're recording this shortly after the Super Bowl, and I ran into a Patriots fan over the weekend, last weekend, and somebody's like, well, you guys are cheaters, blah blah blah, and he
Mhm.
says, if you're not getting caught cheating, you're not trying hard enough. I was like, wow, because AI kind of feels like a cheat code. Like we shouldn't have all this power. But the generalists can now be pretty potent.
Mhm.
What do you think? So considering your clients are kind of the employees of
Mhm.
IR pros,
Yeah.
um, what do you think their interface is with your team? Are you having like a very easy communication between you and them? Like when they need, help with their computer or have a question
Yeah.
about
The people who work for me have a little bit more bedside manner than I do.
you're the Band-Aid ripper offer guy, we know.
Uh, yeah, I mean, it's trying to get obviously have people put tickets in and stuff, and but yeah, I have a team that works for me that does a great job at that. I sometimes I have other things that I'm responsible for. I report directly to the CEO. I have dotted line to the board of directors. I they again, it's also explaining to the end users why we do what we do, right? Because
Yeah.
we rolled out DNS filter on mobile devices last week, and so now we have some pretty aggressive rules around country domains and vanity domains that maybe a lot of companies don't have. I mean, we're pretty flexible on categories. Like we allow social media, we allow shopping, but we've blocked a lot of these vanity domains, like I don't know, dot apartments or whatever, right? All these,
.rodeo.
yeah, dot rodeo is one of them, and so yeah, there's a rodeo in Fort Worth. So, so just trying to work with them on that, and understanding, they lose their phone, things like that, right? Those are the things that we have to deal with, but they don't want. We have some pretty tight compliance rules if their computer gets out of compliance, and we have to work with them on that to bring it back in, and it can take a half hour or so for that process to sync, and they can get frustrated. But
So
generally speaking, yeah, it works.
I have a few .rodeo domains, and are you telling me that no one at IR Pros can get to my website
They
on
can't,
their work device?
they can't. But we'll whitelist it. I have no problem whitelisting it. It's just
All right, I'll send you the domains just in case someone wants to buy something. Who knows?
there's 500 or something of them, and who knows who's managing them, right? If you have a problem with the .com domain, and one day there were 660,000 different .com domains registered on the day I looked, and so if you have a problem with one because you get a phish attack, you can report it to Network Solutions or GoDaddy or whoever manages that domain and probably handle it. I got a .tx domain from someone because I went to an event. I didn't even pay for it, right? I went to an event and I got a .tx domain.
You got a free domain.
And there's one person managing that. And so a lot of these smaller ones, I don't know how they manage their abuse. And I know like the .zip domains have been problematic. There's been some of them that have been really problematic. And maybe this is a battle I'm going to lose because we had someone someone had to get to a .st domain. Well, that is an island off the coast of Africa. Or doctors' offices are using .md, which is a country of Moldova.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not really a country we do business with, right? Why would we have that? But now doctors are using it because it's also MD for medical doctor. So I'm probably going to have to reevaluate this in the near future, but
so do you block a lot of two questions.
Yeah.
Do you block a lot of country code TLDs via DNS filter?
Yes, about 150 of them.
Okay. Do you also use firewall for that too, or just DNS filter, or both?
We have firewalls too, but we have so many remote people that it doesn't really matter. So that's where DNS filter comes in with the agent.
Love that. Also, I live in South Carolina, and there's a country in the Indian Ocean called the Seychelles, and their TLD is .sc, which is a very expensive TLD to purchase. Yeah. But I bought one for my sister. She's like, I want to get something .sc for South Carolina. Yeah. And I was like, this thing's like $100, which is a lot. She's like, is that a lot? I'm like, yes, that's a lot for a domain. Yeah. So blocking country code level TLDs via DNS filter because there's a big remote team. They're on mobile devices, they're on laptops, they're all over the country. That's
Yeah.
a really good strategy and something we don't really see that often because of kind of what you mentioned, where you can kind of clash with things that people are trying to access, like doctors using .md,
Well,
me
we'll
using
whitelist it,
.scs.
but it's just you know,
But it's a process, and you have to interact with
yeah.
your employee base to get all that straightened out. Like your universal allow list is going to grow, and then you're going to have to maintain that and readdress things as they fall off or come on.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
you're like, yeah, adding technical debt. Love it. Thanks.
No, it's not that bad, really. It's, if they really need it, they can. I know that as marketing teams continue down this path, we're going to see more and more challenges in this area.
Absolutely. And I was going to ask you about the .zip too. So that TLD is by Google, who maintains it or runs it or whatever.
Mhm.
And that is, pretty nefarious usage in potentially for a .zip domain. Have you ever seen one of those come through?
I have not, but when I was reading an article, I think on Bleeping Computer or one of those security focused websites, it mentioned them. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, shoot. All right, what else is happening here? So then I pulled the list off of Wikipedia. Oh my God, look at this, right? It's
It just continued to grow. Yeah,
right, and it
the
changes
vanity
every day.
TLDs is a whole other can of worms.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. So a lot of people in the IT space, when they're kind of just getting started. They are fresh out of school. They're looking to get maybe certifications or go to college. What
Mhm.
would you say to someone? What would you recommend advice that you could give someone that is kind of just starting off in their career to get to a
Mhm.
place where you are?
Well, they have to really want it, and then like my son, he's in his master's right now in computer science, and throughout his bachelor's, he was a little frustrated because he was in it because he has a love for the craft, and a lot of other students just didn't have it. Their parents wanted them to go for computer science to get a good job, but they didn't really have any enjoyment for the subject, and so you have to really make sure you want to do it. And you also have to look at where it's going to go as AI changes. I mean, one role I think is very stable is the role of refrigeration technician because it
Yes.
requires people to turn wrenches, and the refrigeration technician role is something that you would go to a trade school for to learn that, and it's not easily replaced by AI because someone still has to turn the wrenches and understand what's happening. So I think the trades all over are seeing a little bit of resurgence because the need for skilled people to do those jobs is still there, but other a lot haven't really gone down that path as of late, and so there's opportunity there. But for roles in IT, it's making sure you really love the craft, and you have to get out and network and build relationships with people, and reach out to different leaders in your community and ask them for coffee. I mean, there's always someone trying to sell me something every day, but there are very few, if any, reach out to me for advice on their career. And people at this level often will be very receptive to a younger person really in his or her career and giving advice. And the other thing you can do is there are many IT events that are only accept the people at the director level or more, but that doesn't mean you can't volunteer to work at their sign-in booth and say, hey, you know what? I know I don't qualify for the event. I'm not a director, but I'll help you sign in people to the event, right? And set the table up and put the supplies away at the end of the night, and then you're still meeting people and engaging them. So those are different things you can do. And then again, getting in the community in different ways. Even if you take a course from meetup.com and you go to a yoga meetup or I'll say basket weaving, but there are a number of different events, and you can still engage and meet people. And someone's like, oh yeah, my brother-in-law needs someone just like you. Right? He's a VP of data at this company, and I'll put in contact. So it's just building a relationship out. I mean, that's how I got this role, through a relationship. And then the person who could have had the role didn't want it. It wasn't the right fit for him, but he knew me and recommended me. So
So you mentioned like passion. I'm thinking like the test would be when you're because if you're in IT, you're thinking about going into IT, you're probably the nerdy-ish person in your family. So when your cousin, your mom, your whoever asks you a technical question, how do you respond? Are you eager to give them a pleasant, helpful answer? Or are you turned off by like, oh, you don't know how to do this? That could be a good litmus test to see if you're suited for the job or not.
Yeah. Another one that I think's been good is anyone who has a home lab has always worked out. No matter how nonsensical that home lab's activities were. And I've had some people who had all these things that copied this and did that. Like, why? It does nothing. But nonetheless, they set it up with VMware and they did this. And I'm like, okay, well, they can figure this out. And yeah, they have the right tinkering ability. So yeah. So that's another thing that I've always looked for is people who have that have always done well.
That is such great advice. So are you the type of person who has a home lab, volunteer for events that you're uh, uh, not qualified to attend, but the people you want to meet are there,
Mm-hmm.
and then getting involved in some type of community,
Mm-hmm.
even like a yoga class. Perhaps there's a VP of engineering somewhere in there, and
Mm-hmm.
spread your wings. I think is the
Yeah, and then
is
reaching out to people, cold calling or cold emailing and asking for advice. It's basically 3 sentences. I noticed you've done a great career. You had a great career and great career trajectory. And I'm at a very early stage. Would you be willing to meet for coffee for half hour and give me some advice? And they know you're not going to try to sell them because you're not in that particular position. And they're always on guard for that. So, but they still want to get out and give back. There's a lot of people in that at a stage in their career where they do want to give back and they want to give back to someone who's actually interested in learning. So
yeah, absolutely. If you reach out to someone on LinkedIn without a sales pitch, then you're like standing out like a sore thumb because every LinkedIn message, like 99% of them are like,
yeah,
hey, buy my thing. Have you heard about this?
yeah, yeah. If you reach out without saying anything, they're going to suspect the sales pitch is coming next tomorrow, right? So you have to
Yeah,
say why.
surprise people on LinkedIn and don't try to sell them anything. They'll be
Yeah,
astonished.
yeah.
Well, Tom, any last words from you?
No. I think it's been great, and we've had we love the product, and it's been quite helpful for us, and we just want to keep using it, and we're happy to have it on our phones now, and we'll see how that goes. So we'll
Yeah,
see
and
how
if
many vanity domains I have to unblock because I only had one
in
this
the
week.
future,
So
when .zip finally becomes a real thing.
yeah,
Yeah, and actually, the documentation that Tom made a suggestion that we improve was our mobile deployment docs because he was dealing with that last week. So thank you again for that, Tom, and thank you for joining me and just being one of our favorite customers.
thank you.